All right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Thursday to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on your Central Valley Live. My name is Gabe Salazar. We are live streaming on our website, on our app, and also on Facebook Live, where you can drop in some comments for later on in the discussion we're about to have. So this week, we honor and remember the men and women in blue who currently serve our communities to keep us safe, and those who have also fallen in the line of duty. As you can imagine, here in Fresno, their jobs are so important now more than ever. So today we are fortunate to have Fresno's top cop with us today, Chief Paco Balderrama, to answer your questions and just to get to know him on a personal level. Chief Balderrama, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very happy to be here with you guys today, and it's been a very a busy last 5 months. This week was my 5th month being here in Fresno, but definitely I've grown to love the people in the community. There's a lot of need here, but that's one of the reasons why this place attracted me, is that where there's a lot of need, there's a lot of opportunity to do good. So that's what we're focused on right now.
Right, yeah, that's for sure. And so let's get to know you more a little bit. So this past year, you were recently sworn in as the 23rd police chief for the Fresno Police Department, but you're also the first Hispanic police chief in Fresno's history. Now, how does it feel to hold that position?
Yeah, it's very inspiring to me personally, because I know that breaking that barrier does inspire others to do it. So, when I first applied for the job, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was the first Hispanic. I kind of assumed that, Fresno being so, having such a large Hispanic population, that certainly there would have been a police chief, but that wasn't the case. So it is a milestone. I know it's important to the community, and it's important to me as well. So I mean, just setting a good example, breaking that barrier, and showing young people that you can accomplish anything, and nothing should really hold you back.
And how many years have you been in law enforcement?
So altogether 25. I started out in Oklahoma City as a detention officer for the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office, and I did that for approximately 3.5 years. I started at 18, so I had to wait until I turned 21, and that's when I applied to be an Oklahoma City police officer. So I spent 22 years in Oklahoma City doing various assignments and jobs, everything from undercover officer to SWAT team to bike patrol officer. I was in our gang prevention program. Later on I started going up the ranks, and I was a public information officer for the Oklahoma City Police Department, commander over property crime. So really had a very rich career there, one that I enjoyed very much so. But then I saw an opportunity to come here to California and to work here in this city with a lot of opportunity, a lot of I believe Fresno is going to go through a renaissance. There's a lot of big plans that the city has to make this community better, and public safety is a big part of that. So knowing those plans of One Fresno and making this community better, I saw an opportunity to be part of a great team that's going to change this community.
Right, so over the years, you've seen a wide range of perspectives in law enforcement, right? And since you became the police chief of Fresno, what are some of your priorities?
Well, the number one priority is obviously making this community safer. When I stepped into the job in January, violent crime was very much trending upward. And January in particular, we had 11 homicides, which is a lot for the city of Fresno. So the number one priority is public safety, but that's our primary function. Is when somebody calls 911, when there's a problem, there's an issue, somebody's trying to hurt somebody else, well, they call the police so we can come and make the situation better. But along that, or hand in hand with that, it's also building community trust, because we can't do our jobs effectively if the community doesn't have a great deal of trust, and they feel that they can rely on and depend on the police department. So both of those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, and just a quick note to our viewers, if you'd like to ask the chief a question, we are live streaming on Facebook, so you can leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to address that. So part of this week is to remember the lives lost while on duty, and just recently 2 California police officers were killed in the span of 24 hours. Detective Luca Benedetti with the San Luis Obispo Police Department was shot by a suspect in an apartment complex while they were executing a search warrant, and in Stockton, Officer Jimmy Inn was shot shot and killed while responding to a domestic violence call. So how does hearing that news affect you as a police chief, and what measures are in place to protect your officers?
Yeah, well, that hits close to home because both of those communities are relatively home here, close to Fresno. They're within our state, so a very tough week, especially this week being Police Week, a week out of the year that we honor men and women in blue who go out there every day to make the community better. Who have taken an oath to protect and serve the community, and who do a very, very difficult and dangerous job. So the fact that those two murders happened this week really affects us all. We are supportive of both of those communities, and we've already reached out and showed our support and offered our help in any way that we can. So we're in the process of doing that. But I think in today's day and age, I think police officers do feel a little bit unappreciated, and they feel that they're not supported out there. And a lot of that is because of some of the rhetoric that's going on around the country, the defunding movement. And I've been very open from the beginning to say that there's a lot of improvements that can be made within the Fresno Police Department and law enforcement in general. And I don't think that police work will ever be the same after 2020 because so many things have grown nationwide. But at the end of the day, we need our police officers. This is a very violent state right now. Really, every large community in the state of the state of California experienced an increase in violent crime, and this is really nationwide. So we need our police officers more than ever now, and we want to make this community better. So officers are a little bit on edge, and they're making sure that they pay special attention and have each other's back because you just don't know when something's going to happen. Just yesterday, we had a very dangerous incident where we believe a violent gang member was intending on ambushing one of our magic officers, and if it wasn't for their quick thinking, that instead of approaching the car, they stood back on a tactical felony stop. That the suspect decided to flee instead of attack the officer. So definitely training right now is very important. Keeping enough officers on the street so they can cover each other's back is also very important.
And a large part of that, and one of the tools that the department has, is the RealTime Crime Center. You recently announced that it is back up and running again after being closed for about 2 years, right? First, explain what it is and why it had to close and how it helps the officers.
Yeah, so it's been shut down for approximately 20 months. And the RealTime Crime Center is basically a state-of-the-art unit where we have various cameras in the downtown area and across the city, along with tactical dispatch, where we can, in real time, figure out what's going on when there's a call, get a camera that's closest to that area, and try to develop information and give that information to the officers who are responding. It gives us the ability to figure out suspect information, vehicle information, give that police officer a sense of intelligence of what is going on there before they show up and arrive. So it can be a great tool, and it was shut down for various reasons, funding, staffing, COVID being three of those. But I see a great value in that unit. So we are staffing it again. Right now we're using light duty officers, but we intend to fully staff it at some point and to provide that as a resource, not just for the police officers, but also for the citizens who are affected by crime in the downtown area. We want to be able to bring that crime down, and this tool can help us do that.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, this technology is much needed, especially for downtown Fresno, right, which has seen an increase in burglaries, sex offenses, auto thefts, especially compared to last year. I know you guys recently put out the annual report, and many of those crimes also go unreported. We do have a question that came in from Elijah Lucas, who asked, how do you plan to effectively manage the constant gun violence that has recently sprung up within our community?
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's so recently. I really have seen a trend where there's been a lot more illegal guns out there on the streets, and I always have to clarify this because as police chief, I'm sworn to protect and serve the community, number one, but also to enforce the Constitution of the United States. And I do believe in responsible gun ownership. So my plea and my point of view is not against people who are law-abiding citizens who choose to own firearms. What we are seeing is that we're seeing a lot of ghost guns a lot of illegal firearms and in the hands of gang members and convicted felons. And it's thus far we've recovered. We're not even halfway through the year, and we've recovered close to 300 guns off the streets, off of gang members. That should be a concern to every citizen, everybody who lives here in Fresno. It should be a concern that there are so many guns out there, and the increase in shootings, which are gang related. A lot of these are gang member on gang member. So really, the trend is out there that every gang member is armed, and so more gang members feel that they have to be armed to protect themselves. So it really kind of creates a very unsafe situation for not just our police officers, but for the citizens. But we are making it. We did have our very first crime view a meeting, which happened yesterday, and we were actually able to see what areas are being affected in the city. But we're also, overall crime is down by 6%. But a lot of that crime that is down happens to be property crime. Violent crime is up, and that's what concerns us the most right now. So, to answer the question, we have to do this intelligently. Data-driven responses typically help us to get more bang for our buck on resources. If we're just randomly out there enforcing the law, it really doesn't help us. We got to find out where the violent crime is happening, who's doing it, and what intelligence do we have to bring that down, and that's what we're starting to do.
And which areas in the city are hotspots of these violent crimes?
It's very sporadic, especially with property crime. It's all over the city, but we have certain areas that basically anybody who's lived in Fresno any period of time knows that there's parts of central and southeast Fresno that are a concern. Typically the violent crime doesn't reach all the way up to way northeast or way northwest Fresno, and also heavily populated areas. Areas where there's a lot of foot traffic. Whenever there's individuals, a lot of people there, you usually will find some type of crime, and that can be anywhere in the city.
And how many homicides have you said have happened this year alone?
So last night we had our 31st homicide, which although we're seeing a downward trend, it is too many for any given year. We've had years when we've only had 39 homicides in the entire year. So to have 31 right now is really high. But keep in mind, all the effects of COVID and 2020 were still affecting us in January. And in January alone, we had 11 homicides, which really drove the numbers way up high. So we do hope to get a handle on it and bring the frequency down. We're already seeing that on the streets. But we want to make this community safer and better, and it's going to take consistency. One of the things that we did was double our magic unit. So we had one team consisting of a supervisor and 6 officers, and we doubled that to make certain that we had magic working basically every night of the week. And those guys are doing an incredible job. They flex their hours when they have to in order to be available when the violence happens.
So do you think the pandemic played a role in the rise in violent crimes, especially for this time of year?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what people are starting to figure out, especially leaders in law enforcement, that there were many effects. There was the downturn in the economy. There was, the lockdowns, which, raised stress levels and frustration levels, and then the civil unrest. And, all those things together caused a lot of police departments to back off a little bit, to not be as proactive. And that's one of the things that really affected us negatively is when you have a police department that is, afraid to do their job because of the defunding movement. So instead, they really back off. They're not proactive. They're not out there trying to catch bad guys. Well, then the bad guys notice that. And when there's no consequences, there's going to be more crime. And that's exactly what happened here, is that some of our gang members, some of our criminals who were doing those violent crimes saw that there were little consequences. And then you take that and you take zero cap bail, where basically you commit a serious crime and you're only in jail for a few hours and you get let back out. Well, that gives a sense of no consequences, and that's going to encourage more crime.
And have you met any of the family members of these victims? And if so, what are some of the things that they tell you?
Yeah, I have. I've met them. We had a vendor, second one last year, who was gunned down in Southeast Fresno, and I met his family and his son, and they were very appreciative because we were able to solve the crime very quickly. But that only softens the blow a little bit. They still lost a loved one, and for the rest of their lives, they get to not have their father, their husband with them. So very sad situation. What we are hearing in some of our disadvantaged communities, in our communities that see the most violent crime, we're seeing that they want more police presence and visibility. And they don't want to see less police officers. They don't want the police department defunded, and for there to be fewer police officers to protect them. They want to see more in their neighborhood because they feel safe to go to the park. They feel safe to walk in the street when there is a police officer present. So that's really who we're paying attention to, because they're the people that are affected the most by violent crime.
And as a police chief, one of the things that come with the job description is to have that transparency and trust for the residents of the city of Fresno, right? So what are some of the measures in place to reflect that for the officers as well?
Yeah, so constant communication is very important. I don't know if you've noticed, but our social media platforms are a lot more robust. So just being able to share information on a daily basis is we want the community to feel connected to us. Also, as COVID opens up, we want to attend more of these community events. When business owners and educators and different organizations across our city start to gather again, and they want us there to give them information, we need to be there. We need to show up. I've been to dozens of virtual community meetings and some in person, and we'll be doing a lot more of those. And when I can't be there, I'll send some representatives, some commanders, that way they can answer those questions that citizens want answers to. So the type of engagement is very, very important, and I think that's how you build trust, by continuing to engage and being transparent. And then also there's the 73 recommendations that were put together by the Police Reform Commission. Those are some that we're actively working on right now to implement, and I believe that we're going to have several implemented in this year.
All right, and another question that came in is, how will multiple offenders be properly dealt with? Because there's people committing violent crimes and major thefts that are back on the streets within a short period of time.
Well, that's a question that is better suited for state legislature. I think we need more support from Sacramento to enact some laws that are actually going to have some consequences, because right now the laws don't have consequences. So we can throw all the resources in the world and arrest people over and over and over, and if we're not going to hold them accountable because our laws are written that way, then what really is the point? So I was listening to a community meeting just yesterday in Southeast Fresno, where one of my lieutenants and one of my detectives was friendly with the public, and one of my detectives articulated a scenario where he literally arrested the same guy 3 times in the same day, and the guy committed being burglaries and causing damage to people's property, and we were just letting him out. And I mean, it is very much a backward system. Yes, if you murder somebody, if you try to kill somebody, there's heavier consequences, but there's no guarantee that you're going to stay in jail for simply an assault or an assault with a deadly weapon. So yeah, we would like to capture them and put them in jail for a long time, but that is not our call, because we don't run the state prisons and we don't make the laws. So that's something that our citizens need to show their frustration to the state government, so we can have laws that are going to actually protect the citizens and make whole people accountable.
And another part of the issue is the issue of staffing, the budget, and hiring more personnel. I know you mentioned earlier this year that has been a problem, right? What's the goal? What's in the range that you want to get into the police force this year?
Yeah, so we are starting a very aggressive recruiting campaign where we want to hire approximately 120 officers in the next 15 months. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to basically meet the needs of the police department, because at this point in time we're losing 3 to 4 people a month, and we're not keeping up with those rates. Right, so we have about 16 vacancies today, and we also have almost 100 police officers on long-term absences. So we have to work with that system as well to bring our police officers who are hurt and injured back to work, and we have to hire more police officers. So it's definitely in the works, but it's definitely going to take some time.
And is another part of the problem the attrition rate? Because, of course, if you get new recruits, another issue is having them stay in the force, right?
Right. And what we have to do as a community, just like any other employer, whether you run a business or whether you run a police department, is that we want to be an attractive organization to come and work at. We want to attract people from other places so they'll want to be police officers here. So we have to reflect that. We have to reflect that in our community. We have to reflect that in our pay. We have to reflect that in opportunities here in the Fresno Police Department. So that's what we're focusing on as far as recruitment, is making this one of the best police departments to work at in the state of California, so people will want to come here and work.
And in light of National Police Week, you mentioned earlier that a large part of the problem is the rhetoric and the way you as officers and in law enforcement are viewed in the public eye. Do you think mainstream media is to blame for all of this?
I think social media, I think mainstream media does have to bear some responsibility, because it's about headlines and it's about clickbait. So you want to create the worst case scenario or the most appealing thing that somebody will want to click on. And when somebody makes a mistake and they sell insurance, nobody cares. When somebody commits a crime and they work at a restaurant, nobody cares. But when it's a former police officer or a current police officer, then it becomes a huge issue. Even though at the end of the day you're still dealing with human beings. So there's issues, there's incidents that have happened. There are horrible incidents that have been condemned by law enforcement leadership in the country, but that didn't occur here. But yet, we're being held responsible for things that happen across the country. And even though when you look at the involvement of police incidents and use of force, the ratio is extremely low. It's extremely low, especially when you compare how many people die in violent crime or in DUI. They're extremely low, yet that's all we're focusing on. And the media and social media, with every disease, it happens multiple times a day, every single day, and it doesn't. Those types of incidents are very, very rare. But at the same time, we have to hold people accountable for whatever incidents that are involved in.
Yeah, and there is a designated unit within the police department who specializes in prosecuting officers. If, for example, the recent example when there was an officer who was tried for his involvement in the Proud Boys, right? That just goes within line with the topic of transparency, right?
Well, no, it's actually wrong, because we do have an internal affairs unit that is going to look into misconduct by any police officer. The particular case that you're talking about, he wasn't tried. There was an investigation and things were uncovered that gave me the flexibility and the ability to terminate the officer. So I felt that I had to do that because it was the right thing to do. And obviously keeping the integrity of our police department is important. So, but no, holding people accountable, we have to do that in today's day and age. It's the right thing to do, and the public not just demands it, but expects it, and that's something that we should be able to give them.
And what has it been like navigating through such an unprecedented year this year in the police force?
Well, it hasn't been easy. Being a police chief in 2021 in any major city is an extremely complicated and difficult job. But I knew that coming in, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge, but I think it's a worthy cause. I think it's something that is honorable. I think serving the citizens of this community and leadership and policing and making the community safer is a calling. It's not a job. It's something that is extremely important, and it's an enormous responsibility, but it's one that it's my pleasure to do.
Yeah, and the goal of this week is just to show our appreciation for you guys, right? And another issue that has been into the light in especially in the Fresno area is the issue of street racing. So what's the progress that we've seen in the instances of street racing here in Fresno?
Yeah, street racing is a huge culture thing here. It's kind of a pastime, and that's perpetuated by the lack of enforcement sometimes. So we've been very proactive. And we've done campaigns along with Councilperson Mike Carbasi, who's been very supportive in trying to address this issue because it happens a lot in his district. So we've done everything that we could to advertise the fact that it's basically about $16,000 if you get fined and your vehicle taken away for street racing, and it's something that we've done proactively. So we are trying to change the culture by reducing the incidents involved in where it creates a safety issue to be involved in street racing, and that's something that we have to be very consistent as well.
All right, and looking ahead, what are some of the things on the top of your list, some of the things that you think need changes in law enforcement?
Well, there's too many to list, but I really want to focus on the 73 recommendations. There's a lot of great recommendations there. I think training is more important than ever in our police officers. So if we're going to expect a professional, well-trained police force, we got to give them the opportunities to train, and that takes money. None of that is cheap. None of that is cheap, and people complain about the budget. But when you look at the budget, there's no fat in it. There's things that we have to have in order to do our job. So I think the public's expectation is very, very high. And working with any budget, everybody wants a safe city. Everybody wants a safer city, but very few people want to pay for it. And when you want to do cutting edge things and have cutting edge training and cutting edge equipment, well, none of that is free. And that's something that I think we have to be cognizant of.
And do you think you can reach that goal of hiring that many officers by the end of this year?
Oh yeah, if we're properly funded, I believe that we can. I believe that we can get to the point where there's no vacancies, and then at some point we have to raise the number of police officers because we don't have enough in the city.
Right, and it's just addressing that need, right? We're seeing more and more crimes happening around the city, and the issue is just addressing the amount of personnel that can help with that, right?
Right. I mean, we have to, in order to respond to calls faster, more effectively, we need personnel to do that. And right now, the wait times for nonviolent crimes are way too long. So that's something that we're trying to address.
All right, Chief Balderrama, thank you again so much for your time today, and thank you for all that you do, and also those men and women who wear blue this time of year.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank the Fresno community because we do receive a lot of support. This Saturday, early at 8 a.m., we're going to have the Support the Blue Run at Woodward Park up north. And that event typically attracts a few thousand people, and it's a great opportunity for the citizens to come out and just show their support for their police department and let them know that you care and that you appreciate them. So I do want to open that opportunity up. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, and we'll have all that information on our website as well on yourcentralvalley.com. Thank you again, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, and thank you so much for joining us here on Your Central Valley Live. We'll have this video up on our website, yourcentralvalley.com. Thank you again, and have a great day.